Innocent until proven guilty. It's probably a saying you've heard, especially if you live in America. So it's not a saying that I think is necessarily wrong, but I think it's overused, perhaps. I think it's maybe too simplistic of a view of it. So I think the main point of that is largely to avoid what you would consider like an incontrovertible mistake. Hopefully I'm using that word correctly. Like a mistake that you can't easily fix, or you might not be able to fix at all. So if you're in a court case type of scenario, you have a judge who sentences someone to 50 years in jail or death or whatever on insufficient evidence, there's a high potentiality for a mistake there that, well, you can't really fix that if you were wrong about it. So yes, innocent until proven guilty, probably a good policy in that type of scenario. You want to be very, very sure before you do something like that. But on the other hand, if a woman decides that she doesn't want a male roommate because that's not a position she wants to put herself into, most of us would not judge her for doing so, in spite of the fact that that is in fact a guilty until proven innocent type of mentality. And I think this whole type of thing has to do with like a reward versus consequence type of dynamic, which I learned from a Ratchet and Clank game. So thank you, Insomniac, I guess. But it has to do with this type of dynamic between like the potentiality for a reward versus the potentiality for consequence of some sort. I'd maybe talked about this. I don't think I talked about this particularly in the episode about inquisitiveness versus critical thinking. But I had said that critical thinking tends to posture itself more in a defensive position versus inquisitiveness, which tends to take more of an open, exploratory type of position. And I think it kind of this dynamic applies to this type of scenario pretty well. That if you're with a person you don't trust, or an enemy, or someone who you think is laboring for your downfall for whatever reason, you're far more likely probably to be very, very critical in that type of situation, because the potentiality for them somehow bringing about harm to you outweighs the potentiality of some reward coming from that type of scenario. So yeah, critical. If you're with a person who you like, or who you think is your friend, or is laboring for your well-being, probably going to be far more inquisitive in that type of scenario, because in that type of scenario, the potentiality for some sort of reward is far greater than the relatively low potentiality for for that person trying to bring about harm to you. At least I tend to think that's the way it would work out. Yeah, so I don't necessarily think it's a wrong saying, per se. I just think that like innocent until proven guilty, it's not exactly what you would call a universal truth. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please press the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to.